That's my official cue to start. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. And welcome to the 6th session in our Back to Basics series. Hard to believe we were already at number 6, but here we are. And I'm coming to you live from Cisco Live in EMEA. So lucky me gets to be at EMEA this week, in EMEA for Cisco Live. So this week we are focusing on Cisco Secure Network Analytics, or as I refer to it, the artist formerly known as Stealth Watch. And with us, we have Logan Bunthrock from the product management team to talk about the subject and give you a quick high-level overview. As I do on the start of every call, if you're here looking for a deep dive, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed. So here's your cue to leave. This is truly aimed at our newer to networking sellers and giving you some easy points to cover when it comes to selling the solution. So when I look at Cisco Secure Network Analytics, or SNA, it's a critical part of our Catalyst Full Stack messaging. Next slide, please, Logan. When we created the Catalyst Full Stack messaging, we did it to particularly address our business needs and our customers' business outcomes. And a big piece of that is securing the enterprise. And Cisco Secure Network Analytics is a big part of that effort, especially for those customers who are looking for a zero trust network and looking to put solutions together. This is a key part. So with that, Logan, I'm going to stop talking. One last thing, one little housekeeping item. Everyone is muted on entry. Don't be offended. Don't think that we don't want to hear from you. We do have a Q&A panel down in the bottom of your screen. You should be able to click in the Q&A panel. We have panelists on board to answer your questions. So feel free to ask questions as we go through the presentation, or if you want to hold your questions to the end, after the presentation, I will have the ability, you can raise your hand using the icon. I can take you off of mute and you can ask your question live. So absolutely, we want it to be as interactive as it possibly can be. Ask questions, wait till the end, ask questions there too. So Logan, take it away. It's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Molly. As she said, I'm one of our product managers on our Secure Network Analytics team. I'm joined by Arun as well on the team in the panelist, so feel free to ask any questions. As Molly said, we'll keep it high level here today. There's obviously too much content to consume around this topic, so there's plenty of places we can dive deep, but I do want to keep it higher level just so you really get a taste for what we're focused on as a product and why this matters to Cisco so much. So to get started, I'm going to jump into just talking about, well, what is Secure Network Analytics? But I first want to really focus more on the customer, because that's really how you understand more about the product and the opportunity here. When we look at our customers, especially the ones who we talk with, who are existing customers, and where they've bought our product, it's really about understanding their challenges and problems. And when you look at a customer who's a Cisco customer, especially, who probably has a large investment in network infrastructure, zero trust has been another common topic of investment. We look at, well, what problems are they trying to solve? And when we go talk with customers, their typical top of mind problems are things like outages, service quality, remote workers, the expansion to the cloud. These are all very, very critical things for our customers to try to get ahead of. And as we look at our portfolio of products, how do we really help them in those areas? But I'm really here today to talk about the S word, which is security, which is obviously, for those who follow the news, follow Cisco's strategy, it's a critical discussion point for us as a business, as well as for many, many others in their C-suite today. So when we look at the theme of security and Secure Network Analytics, start thinking about how much that really means to us as a business, and what we can do here to really leverage capabilities we have at Cisco to create more value for customers. The big questions our customers have when it comes to security, especially where Secure Network Analytics plays, it's really about understanding the environment they have and were they compromised? Was there risk? So when we look at Secure Network Analytics and what it actually is as a product, it's really about taking your network infrastructure that you've invested in, taking data from that infrastructure, and helping the customer answer 4 simple questions. What risk is on my network? What normal activity is on my network? What services are on my network and what's being connected, externally, for example, internally to externally? And is there anything malicious occurring on my network? Most attackers need to leverage the network to actually reach their goal. So with this in mind, the network is one of the most critical security control points the organization has. It's also a unique control point that gives customers visibility across their organization, which helps them put together information and insights. Therefore, Secure Network Analytics, as a product, our goal is really answering those 4 questions. What risk is on my network? What normal activities on my network? What services are connecting to my network? And what's potentially malicious? So we really enlist the existing investment in the network, especially the Cisco network, with the telemetry we can get to answer those 4 questions very, very simply. So with that introduction, I'm going to pivot a little bit deeper into some of the outcomes, and it's going to get a little interesting here in the next slide. But I was thinking about like what does our product really do for customers? And the first thing I thought of is a book I read a lot as a kid, and maybe you've read to your kids or for yourself as a kid. And I thought of this book called Where's Waldo. So I think it's called Where's Wally in other parts of the world as well. They have different names for the character. But essentially the premise of this is there's a guy with a red and white shirt and blue pants, and you've got to try to spot him. And I'll be honest, I still haven't found him yet in this picture. So if you see him, maybe give a thumbs up. But again, the premise here is trying to find this guy in this picture of things that has a lot of similar looking colors. You see a lot of reds in the picture. We see a lot of blues and whites, which are the exact colors of this guy, Waldo. And this really, to me, summarizes the exact problem our customers have when it comes to security and it comes to the advantage of the network. There's so much great information on the network that can be leveraged, but it's so complicated and so confusing. There's millions and millions of connections every day from many customers. You can't really see the bad guy, right? So if Waldo's the bad guy, it's really hard to find him as a person. And this is really where Secure Network Analytics comes in. We look at all those network conversations using the telemetry that customers already have from the network investment to look for those patterns. So we look at the greens, or the blues, the reds, the whites. What's normal? What's okay? And what's potentially unusual or new? Which are really, at the end of the day, it's an analytics product that helps us find Waldo. And that's the simplicity of it. Network is very powerful, but it's also very complicated. Additionally, you heard Molly talk about zero trust. So with zero trust, just as critical as finding Waldo or the bad actor potentially in a sea of normal activity, it's about understanding what's actually going on at a very, very deep level on your network, so you can really build good security in. And when we look at where customers often end up, when we talk to them, they have some idea of what's happening in their environment. They might have some idea of what services are being connected, who's on the network, where things are talking back and forth, but it's extremely blurry. So they might know there's a skyline in the picture, but they have no idea which city it is. They have no idea what color the buildings are. And it's this visibility that you really got to have. You got to have that granular visibility if you want to build good security on the network, especially using tools like Cisco ISE, as I think you've heard in a previous session all about. Secure Network Analytics, with the visibility, with the telemetry we get across the network environment, we can actually provide this visibility quite easily. So customers can actually know what's actually happening at a very deep level between assets, between services, between users. So they can then build a much more robust security policy out using tools like ISE and others. So it really gives you that 20/20 vision of the network when maybe before you were, kind of like me, off quite a bit without glasses, and therefore potentially in the danger zone. To really summarize this into 4 bullets, it's the finding Waldo piece. It's finding unknown threats, finding insider threats, those things that we really can't see from other security tools that the network does provide great visibility to. Malware is another one. If you know anything about malware, it's software that attackers essentially use, they modify to reach their goal. And you might think about your endpoint as something that detects malware. So you might see your little security pop-ups and whatnot about antivirus and whatnot. And that is one of the common security control points for malware. But there is so much more that can be done for the customer using the network, given how important it is for the attacker and important it is for the organization. You can spot things on the network that weren't seen on other devices. And there's a whole cool set of features I'll talk about in a second that Cisco provides from the Cisco network that enable this detection. And then lastly, the visibility that we can provide across a broad set of services with very fine-grained detail, that 20/20 vision I talked about, it enables policy violation checks. So looking for patterns of change, looking for issues when it comes to new connections that may have been built out securely, really enabling that zero trust story from the ground up with that rich, pervasive visibility. And all of this is using the network as a sensor. So being able to actually go in, take the telemetry that comes from Cisco devices already, apply a little bit of analytics, machine learning, these outcomes are available for customers. And to kind of touch on what the telemetry really is and why it's so important. So there's a lot of noise if you just were to look at the raw telemetry coming from various environments, whether it's cloud, whether it's firewalls, network devices. But making sense of this is where the secure network analytics product really comes in to play for the customer. So collecting data from the public cloud, the data center, virtual environments, the network, we're able to take all this together and actually make sense of it all for customers. Just to give you an idea of what some examples of some of the things that we take data from, and to show, these are all investments customers are making. You're out selling Cisco switches, routers, data center capabilities, firewalls. These are all devices that give us this rich visibility. It's as simple as that. These are already built into the software. We can take this visibility and we can then leverage it for other outcomes outside of, actually just monitoring the health of the infrastructure from an operating perspective, but also from a security perspective. That S word is extremely important to include in what Cisco networking can provide to the customer. And you've already heard me mention how important the network is for the attacker, and that's why it is so important for us as a company to really leverage the network more for security outcomes. Something that's really, really cool, the Cisco, a certain set of Cisco devices, especially our Catalyst 9K switches and the Meraki MS390, enable a unique capability that gives us special visibility into the traffic that's coming in and out of the network. And this traffic helps us detect that malware I talked about. That malware is what, obviously what attackers are typically using. So with this visibility, this is something very unique to Cisco, only Cisco offers, and it's purely powered by network technology. So you can see how you take analytics and you take network telemetry, you put the two together, you're able to find malware. Additionally, you can also build a more secure environment with this telemetry that comes from these Cisco devices. You can monitor for inappropriate security compliance usage. So let's say I'm connecting to something and I'm not connecting securely. This enables me to actually monitor the customer's environment using secure network analytics for potentially security controls that are actually inappropriate. And just to kind of show you what some of the results have been, without having the security technologies deployed from the Cisco network with that visibility, we were actually, or with that deployed, we're actually able to detect 76% of critical high-risk threats in this traffic. So without that, customer didn't have that visibility. With that, they got this visibility. That just shows you how powerful the network is for security and that functionality from Cisco networks. The other piece of this is really back to that 20/20 vision piece. So let me just go a little bit deeper into how that actually works at a very high level and what the outcomes are, so you can kind of see, what this looks like. There's a lot more we could show here in terms of product demos and everything. I won't get into all that today, but I wanted to show you a quick visual of what this really looks like. So oftentimes customers have many different components of their environment or their services that are critical to their business. So they may have an IoT centric organization where they've got a lot of devices connecting through the network to other services, whether it's public cloud or where they're on-premise data centers. They may have things like payroll servers. They may have payment processing technology if they're a retail customer. And one of the most important things they can do when it comes to building good zero trust policy is really knowing, well, what the heck do I even have in the first place? And how are things communicating? So with this deep network telemetry I talked about earlier coming from the devices, we can actually build this whole model out for the customers using secure network analytics. We can identify every asset talking on the network, where it's coming from, is it internal, external? And we can also look at what type of asset is it. So we can categorize and group things. We can organize the network in a way that tells us a lot about what are these different devices and how are they segmented. This allows us to build good policy with other tools like ICE. It also allows us to monitor for changes or risks that may have changed where they now have a wide open gaping hole in the side of their network they didn't know they had yesterday. All these things are very simple, but super critical to good security. With ICE, I mentioned that earlier, we can also do some really cool things with ICE. We can pull in a lot of the information contextually, automatically out of the box, which helps us build this model out much more easily for customers and offers sort of that 10x for the customer. They don't have to do any of the work. They can leverage kind of the unique Cisco network telemetry with ICE, with Secure Network Analytics to put the whole picture together and then monitor for changes, risks, things like that as they build out their zero trust policy. But don't take it from me. Our customers tell us this all the time. And that's where a lot of the context about the outcomes I built for were just based on what we've learned over the years working with customers, especially Cisco network customers. A lot of the feedback we get is around visibility. And it should be no surprise, the two things I talked about when it comes to outcomes are really about visibility. But why is visibility so important to security? It's really because there's two things. One, visibility gives you the edge in terms of protecting your environment, and the network is that critical point across your environment that helps you protect your environment even better, especially when you talk about zero trust. And two, it's the attacker. The longer the attacker is in your environment, if they bypass security controls, the more money it's typically going to cost you, the more impact they can make. And typically, security organizations look at number of days it takes to respond as one of their key metrics. We look at talking with our customers. The biggest driver we've seen across some of the data has been the reduction of response times. So even if they were breached, we may have actually seen that early enough to help mitigate the situation or help them respond more quickly to the situation, which in result saves them money. It's as simple as that. And the money comes down to something like this. These are some of the industry facts. These are a little bit dated, but these generally haven't changed. Attackers live in environments for a long time, often hiding in that Where's Waldo mess I shared earlier. It's really hard to spot an attacker sometimes. They can really bypass a lot of good security controls. So being able to take that time down several days saves a lot of money. Seeing the average cost of a data breach, you can see there is pretty high. This was a couple of years ago, but still they're about the same. Secure Network Analytics really helps solve this problem in particular for customers. And it boils down to really three insights. It's taking their existing investments. It's taking those investments and helping them scale their security needs because the network, again, is so powerful. I'll keep hitting on that for security. And then helping them actually build a more secure network as well. Not just detecting threats, but also building things out more securely from a posture perspective. So looking at these key benefits here, what does this really mean for us at Cisco? And this is, I kind of started, saying security is such a critical word now to be used inside of customers' strategy because it is so critical to their overall business strategy. What does this mean for Cisco? You probably have seen, if you've watched any TV or seen any advertisements, we've been investing quite a bit in this message. If it's connected, it's protected. This is from Cisco marketing. I think it was on Monday Night Football recently. This is from Times Square. It's been in airports. Cisco is really investing in this model. If it's connected, it's protected. For this whole reason, we've learned from customers this is where their priorities are. And at Cisco, I talked about how important the network is for the attacker. It's also super critical for the customer to help build a better, more secure organization. So the big takeaway I want you to take away from here is not all the small details I walked through. We can go a lot deeper in things. It's really use the Secure Network Analytics as a product to help enhance Cisco's offer overall, help us compete more easily and help us build that moat around our business so that we can, really make it a lot easier to sell Cisco networking with security, but also just frankly help the customer, right? There's a lot of visibility out of share there that they're dealing with every day that a lot of customers aren't even aware of, right? They're not thinking about this. Help them, sort of bring value in many other ways other than just the core infrastructure. So with that, sort of wrapped up here today. I kept it short, has a nice introduction. There's a lot more you can dive into on our Sales Connect site, on Cisco.com. We've got all kinds of other webinars you can attend, training content. But I really hope you take away three things. You get a high level of understanding of the customer challenges. It's the Where's Waldo problem, the 2020 vision problem, those outcomes of not being able to see things as clearly as they could, which can result in a lot of money and issues down the road that could potentially impact their entire business, not just their network. Learn more, hopefully learn some of the high level outcomes we provide at Skinner Organized. I didn't get into the tech stack. I'm actually really focused on detection as a product, so I get deep into the back end algorithms. I didn't cover any of that today, but there's a lot of cool stuff there behind the scenes. And then really, again, just walking away, I want you to help it make it easier for you to win, help Cisco make it easier for Cisco to win. And given that S-word security is a common topic now, this is really the way we can do that very simply at Cisco by bringing some of these technologies together to really move the needle for the customer. And with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Molly, to sort of wrap things up here.